Thank you and good evening. Welcome, everyone, to our board meeting, June 14, 2023. I'm just going to call this meeting to order and ask us to stand for land acknowledgement and our national anthem.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to indigenous and non-indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Thank you. You may be seated. There's no addition to tonight's agenda. Can I have someone move and second tonight's agenda, please? Trustee Davey, Trustee Pinelli. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. And a declaration. I'm seeing now. Okay. All right. I think we're okay now. Okay. All right. So we're going to move down to item 6, which is celebrating our board activities. And tonight, we just want to celebrate two amazing student trustees who have been here with us, student Lean Atwal and Evelyn Lee, who has served with us over the last year and have done an amazing job representing their peers, both in the North and in the South. And we want to take this time to thank them for their commitment and their dedication and wish them well as they go off to greater things on their education journey. And on behalf of the board, I got a little token for you. So I'll just come over and present this to both of you. We're going to go down to item 7 at this time, which is which is staff recognition. And tonight we have a number of staff members that are retiring from our board, and their name will be displayed on the board behind us. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chair Cole is in line, who will make some remarks. Vice Chair Cole.
Thank you, Chair Green. And also thank you to everyone who was a part of the school board for so many years. And again, we'd like to say thank you for your many years of service and for your dedication to the school board.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cole. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the chair announcements. And I have two announcements tonight. And I would like to take this time on behalf of the entire board of trustee to say congratulations to our director, Director Surul. After many discussions with my colleagues and look at the work that she's doing, we have decided as a board to extend her contract for the next 3 years. So Director Surul, I want to say congratulations. We look forward working with you over the next 3 years as our director.
Thank you, Chair Green, and to all trustees.
And a second announcement tonight, I just want to take the time to just recognize my colleagues who, along with myself and Director Suru, who attended the Ontario School Board Association annual conference in Blue Mountain over the weekend. It was a great time, great learning, great PD for trustees. Trustee Johal, Trustee Bailey, Trustee Kathy McDonald. We all attended and had some great times to learn about our role and responsibility as trustees, and how we can continue working towards and then amplifying student voice and putting student first. Also just want to say, as a Peel board, we have a voice at the table. Out of all the boards across the province, we have more voice at the table at the Ontario level to advocate for our students, because we came back with Trustee Kathy McDonald, represent us and Central West on the program and work team, Trustee Bailey on the policy work team, and then we also have Trustee Davey as director, and I continue to be enrollment vice president, represent Peel at the Ontario School Board level. So when you look across the province, Peel has more voice at that table, so more advocacy for our student. So I want to say congratulations to each and every one, and look forward for the work that we will continue to do and continue to advocate for our students here in Peel. So thank you and congratulations again. Can somebody move receipt? Trustee Pimenley, Trustee Bailey, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And then I'm going to turn it over to Director Surul for her report.
Thank you, Chair Green, and good evening, trustees, staff, and community members. The 2022-2023 school year comes to a close this month, and I want to take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to all staff for their hard work and dedication this school year. As we return from the disruptions that the COVID-19 pandemic placed on our schools and workplaces, it was a joy to see the return of many of our students and staff to in-person learning and working environments, and to experience the exhilarating feeling of being together again. This evening, I want to thank our student trustees, Avneet Atwal and Evelyn Lee, and acknowledge their system leadership in representing Peel District School Board students in their role during this term. Avneet and Evelyn, it has been a pleasure working with you and having you at the table. I want to thank you for your advocacy of students across Peel District School Board, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. This was our first full in-person school year and the return from 2 years of pandemic conditions that also posed challenges and adjustments on both a personal and professional level. I want to express my gratitude to all staff for everything that they have done to inspire success, confidence, and hope in our students. Along with some challenges, there have been incredible successes that we can be proud of in Peel District School Board. In my visits to schools and Peel District School Board events, I have been impressed by the outstanding accomplishments founded in our efforts to provide authentic learning experiences for all students, while continuing to work to address disparities and disproportionalities of outcomes for Black, Indigenous, and racialized students, so that all students can meet their full potential. We remain steadfast in our commitment to deeply embed anti-oppressive, anti-racist, and anti-colonial principles in all our work as we move beyond the ministry directives, focusing on deep and sustainable change. From the students who acquired university credits in our partnership with University of Toronto, Mississauga, to Central Peel students who successfully won the NASA Space Settlement International Contest, to the partnership with the Ted Rogers School of Management and the Diversity Institute at the Toronto Metropolitan University for a badging program for students to explore future pathways, and to the recognition of long-standing excellence in our school communities that celebrate significant anniversaries this year. These are just a few examples of our work to ensure that all students are provided with opportunities to meet with success. I'm grateful for the meaningful collaboration with parents, caregivers, families, and communities whose participation and involvement guide us in serving our students. And I thank them for their input, feedback, partnership, and support. And finally, as we head towards year-end celebrations, graduations, and commencements, our students will move to new grades, new schools, post-secondary learning opportunities, and more. We are proud of all Peel students and grateful that we have the privilege to serve them each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sarul. Can I have Trustee Cameron, Trustee Clark? He moves Director Sarul reports. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. And now we're going to turn it over to our student trustees who has something to say tonight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Avni Atwal. I am the North Student Trustee. I wanted to first say thank you for giving me the opportunity to represent the student voice in my area and have an impact on the student community. I'm here today to share some highlights of this year's school year. Next slide, please. The Punjabi family of schools has a thriving population of students that are eager to make connections and rebuild relationships after being in a hybrid model of school. This was the first full year of in-person learning, and students were excited to see each other and rekindle their relationships. Through the data we collected, we learned that students in our feeder schools are nervous about coming into high school and are unsure about meeting expectations and connecting to others. Next slide. We responded to the needs of building community by creating large-scale events where elementary and secondary students can work together and foster a strong relationship for the beginning of high school. There were some amazing events that took place in the Punjabi family of schools. Some of these included the Enterprise Program, STEM fairs, field trips, and much more. Next slide. One of the biggest highlights of this year was the SCG challenge that took place at Harold M. Brathwaite and Louis Arbor. We had our feeder schools participate as our challengers, which were Ross Drive, Great Lakes, and Lougheed. We hosted the biggest makerspace in Peel and had 2 prototype galleries, one at Harold Brathwaite and one at Louise Arbor. Here's a video to recap the STD challenge.
Hi, my name is Samira Raza Qureshi, and I'm taking you on an innovative journey to empowerment and telling you about our SDG Change Challenge. The SDG Change Challenge is a STEAM conference to ignite agency and advocacy in students across the Punjabi family of schools in conjunction with the Modern Learning Resource teachers through the Innovation and Research team at the Peel District School Board. Moses Velasco grounded us in transformative power of collaboration and how we can together as a community of educators empower our students. His talk launched us into build mode at our enormous makerspace playground for students to dream about ways that they can change the world. We had over 200 elementary students, several administrators, teachers, and support staff, along with 60 grade 11 and 12 mentors participating on Build Day. And we ended the day off with a prototype gallery at Harold Brathwaite and Louise Arbor Secondary School. To ensure a successful build for Change Challenge Day, we held 2 conferences in parallel. A virtual conference for elementary students to begin exploring concepts like design thinking and empathy mapping, and an in-person conference where mentor students played in a makerspace playground so they were ready to support students on Build Day. The Makerspace Playground gave off this amazing energetic vibe where critical thinking and creativity empowered students to use their voice to change the world. Let's hear from Jalen, who made a watch to measure serotonin levels. So why did you decide to focus on serotonin levels and when it came to health and well-being?
We thought because some people do need like mental help with stuff, stress and depression and stuff like that. But not many people do reach out and get the help that they need. So we thought this could be a way that people can sort of find a cheap way to sort of track that kind of thing without having to pay a lot for doctors with it.
Okay, good. And now we're going to hear about a self-watering system that ensures plants survive regardless of climate.
Basically, we made a self-watering system, so automatically water plants and it has a sensor when it will sense that it's dry or wet.
And Zarina is going to talk about how she empowered students with neurodiversity during their prototype build. And how did you empower them in the process?
We kept cheering them on, congratulating them after every small step they did, so they know that they're doing something really well and they're really being successful.
And the finale was a prototype gallery at Harold Brathwaite and Louise Arbor Secondary Schools where we welcome community members to see their awesome inventions. Here's a look. Every student came alive through the SDG Change Challenge. The place was buzzing with energy and students were once again inspired to feel hope, confidence, and success in themselves. We look forward to seeing you next year at SDG Change Challenge.
Thank you. Another accomplishment I'm very proud of is talking to younger grades about body image and body positivity. I use my power and privilege to influence students to have positive body image and allow them to love themselves. While the message seems like an easy one, it's actually a challenge given all that social media messages that students are having to deal with. We have created some wonderful and lasting relationships. From the feedback I received, I know that this program has a positive effect on students, especially those who identify as female. Next slide. Being a student trustee was a great experience. I learned a variety of different leadership skills, and I've developed the leadership skills in planning a large-scale events like Grade 9 Breakfast, hosted by the Grade 12s, the SCG Change Challenge, as well as Grade 9 Orientation, which we were the first school at Harold M. Brathwaite to have the parents invited as well. In the future, I plan on entering politics, and this was a perfect segue to my career. Thank you. I'll be passing the mic to Evelyn. Thank you, Avneet. My name is Evelyn Lee, and I'm really glad to have been able to spend the past year representing the South of Peel. Something exciting I'd also like to share with all of you is the annual leadership conference hosted by the Peel Students President's Council that happened this past month. This year's conference was named Reinvent and focused on helping each individual student reinvent their approach to leadership and really helping every student find the leader in them, with nearly 150 students attending from schools across the board. I was happy to be a leadership developer for a second time and witness what I'd say one of the purest forms of student voice coming to life. This conference is a conference for students by students. Students from all schools were invited to spend a day here at the HJA to engage in various activities and challenge their leadership, and left students inspired and energized with the idea of becoming leaders. The council this year did a phenomenal job at planning this year's conference, and seeing it come to life for another year was truly a beautiful thing. Now for some of my final remarks. This is a bittersweet ending to a journey I'm so glad I took on. A year ago, walking into this role, was a younger Evelyn who didn't know much but had a dream to make a positive impact within this community. And I leave this role today with new stories, inspirations, and a fulfilling year of working with one of the things that matter most to me, which is education. It has been the greatest privilege and honor to work alongside such dedicated members, administrators, other trustees, and students everywhere. I want to thank you all for making this term so wonderful, and I'm so lucky to have an experience that makes saying goodbye so hard. Throughout my term, I've witnessed firsthand the power of student voice. Some of my highlights from this year were spearheading initiatives on the Consent Culture Committee, Mental Health Committee, working with the Peel Students President's Council, meeting students from various schools at student voice meetings we hosted, promoting and attending various initiatives, some even student-led within Peel, working on the Indigenous Student Trustee motion, and definitely this year's PSPC's reInvent conference. I also got to work on some exciting projects. One of my favorite ones was donating over $200 worth of toys to McMaster's Children's Hospital with two of my fellow Peel friends and the newly elected Halton student trustee. Not to mention meeting other student trustees across Ontario who I now consider lifelong friends. As I reflect on my time as a student trustee, it's been a year with triumphs, invaluable experiences, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to have served in this role. As I pass the torch to the incoming student trustees, I wish they embrace this role with nothing but passion, integrity, and continue upholding the remarkable spirit here at PDSB. I'll hand it back to Avneet for her trustee remarks. Thank you, Evelyn. Before heading out, I wanted to thank everyone here today for supporting me and providing me with the opportunity to take on the position of student trustee. I want to specifically thank a couple of people. I want to thank Ms. Gale, who's my principal, for believing in me and supporting me at times when it was challenging to do so. I want to also thank my family for supporting me and being there for me and loving me unconditionally, especially my mom and dad. I would also like to thank Catherine and Sabrina. Both of you have helped me so much this year, and I wouldn't have been a successful student trustee without you two. To Ms. Punjabi and Ms. Smith, you have exemplified leadership for me, and I will keep these lessons close to my heart as I strive forward in my political career. Ms. Samira Raza Qureshi and Ms. Samantha Gill are the absolute best teachers ever. They support their students and go above and beyond, creating life experiences that we will always remember for the rest of our lives, as well as all the trustees that sit here with us. Thank you for being so welcoming and kind, and I wish all of you the best of luck this year. I'm a better person because of all the experiences and connections I have made as student trustee. Thank you, and I wish everyone the best.
Once again, thank you both very much for all your work, and we wish you well in your future endeavor. Thank you. Trustee Olive, Trustee K. McDonald, all those in favor? Thank you. There is no report.
Excuse me, Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, I'd like to make a quick report, please, if I may.
Okay, all right, sure. Okay, all right. All right, we'll allow it. It's not on the agenda, but I'll allow it. Yes.
Okay,
go ahead.
thank you.
Yes.
Well, over the weekend, as you mentioned, we attended the Ontario Public School Board Association annual general meeting. Right. And at that meeting, the Black Trustee Caucus was formed. And I'm really excited I remember being a trustee in 2014 And we were working on this, getting Black trustees to come together and have a voice. And I was elected as the chair, and Elizabeth Sinclair was elected as the vice chair. So I just wanted to bring this to the attention of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, congratulations and becoming chair for that group. Thank you. Okay, Trustee Jahal and Trustee Davy, move that. Thank you. All those in favor? Carry. Thank you. Okay, there is no consent agenda item tonight, so we're going to move down to 13, which is approval for previous board meetings. And minutes from our May 24th meetings is here. I'm going to ask Trustee B. McDonald and Trustee Alf to move those for me. Question, concerns? All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. We're going to move down to 14, and we have the minutes from our governance and policy of May 17. Trustee B. McDonald and Trustee Bailey. Question, concerns? All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. We're going to go to 14.2, which is our planning and financial building committee meetings from June the 1st. Let me take the minutes first. Who's on that committee? Yeah, Trustee Bailey, Trustee Cameron. Okay. All those in favor of the minutes? Thank you. Carries. Out of that meeting also, we also have a motion. We have 7 delegation from that meeting. And I'm going to ask somebody to, a mover and a seconder, that we refer all the delegation to the director for response. So Trustee Cameron and Trustee Pomeli is moving that. All those in favor? Thank you. So we'll send those to the director for response. Okay. Okay, put your mic on. Okay, go ahead. Trustee Bailey?
So I'd like to move motion on the floor.
Arising from the minutes?
Arising from the minutes.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And you have a second?
Brad.
Okay, all right, good.
Trustee McMillan.
Okay, all right, good. Go ahead.
Okay. Whereas access to the Center of Black Excellence Steering Committee's past minutes in terms of reference, the board can gain a comprehensive understanding of the committee's work, ensuring transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making. The minutes in the terms of references serves as essential historical references, providing valuable insights that can guide our discussions and actions in shaping the future of our educational institution. Whereas the inclusion of future minutes will ensure that the board remains up to date with the ongoing work and progress of the Center of Black Excellence Steering Committee. This will foster a culture of collaboration and shared information, enabling the board to provide appropriate guidance, support, and oversight. Be it resolved that the Center of Black Excellence Steering Committee's past minutes and future minutes be shared with the Board of Trustees.
Okay. All right. Any questions, concern? So you have a mover and seconder for that. Okay, so I'm going to call the vote because I see no question, no comments. All those in favor?
So you could put in as one minute.
Okay, sure. I did say that.
No, I thought she was going to speak.
No, she's not speaking. Okay.
Thank you. Is it possible? I just want to see the last, or she could repeat it because I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
She's
asking you if you could.
The last 3 sentences, I think.
Do you want to start from be it resolved?
The whereas, yeah, thanks.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Center of Black Excellence Steering Committee's past minutes and all future minutes be shared with the Board of Trustees.
Okay. Thank you.
You have a comment?
No, okay, I just wanted to know.
You just want clarification?
Yeah.
Okay,
and
all
I
right.
just, my comment would be is for all steering committees, could I amend that to ask for all steering committee minutes to be shared with us? For transparency for the same reasons that you,
okay.
Or no?
So
is that a separate motion?
That would be a separate motion because this is arising from the minutes out of the planning, but you could serve notice to request that. And that would be a motion that we would accept, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, look like carries. Thank you. Okay, great. Okay. 15, which is reports, and we're gonna move down into 15A, which is Directive 14, a comprehensive 4 years equity strategy and action plan. And I'm gonna turn it over to Director Suru to introduce Superintendent Art.
Yes. Thank you, and through you, Chair Green, I'm going to ask Superintendent of Equity, Lisa Hart, to present the report on Directive 14.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Chair Green, I'm happy to present to the Board of Trustees 2 items that meet the expected deliverables of Directive 10 and Directive 14. Directive 14 requires that the Peel District School Board address systemic impediments to the learning success and well-being of Black, Indigenous, and racialized students through a comprehensive 4-year strategy and action plan. Directive 10 requires that the Equity Department develop an action plan in collaboration with the board's Human Rights Commissioner that sets out specific objectives to reduce and eliminate inequities within the PDSB, and that those objectives be tied to actions and measurable outcomes. The equity strategy that you have before you establishes a roadmap for PDSB to close gaps in achievement and well-being experienced by students who have been historically and currently underserved. The strategy reflects some of the good work already being done that will become embedded throughout the system. It also reflects the additional work that will be completed over the coming years. We remain committed to address racial disparities and disproportionate outcomes, and are purposeful about expanding our approach with the equity strategy to ensure that while we remain focused on Black, Indigenous, and racialized students, we are also addressing all the issues of inequity that students face. Our work has demonstrated that equity issues often intersect and reinforce each other, and therefore requires an intersectional approach in order to deeply understand and get to the root causes. The equity strategy supports our commitment to achieving equitable outcomes for all Peel students. While the equity strategy provides the high-level direction and framework for this important work, the action plan provides more detail as to the work that will be accomplished over the next 4 years. Each department will then have its own implementation plan. Together, this work will ensure that equity work is not just done, but becomes embedded within all that we do at the PDSB in order to benefit all our students and staff. The equity strategy also specifies how we will measure progress and remain accountable to the Board of Trustees and to the public. I want to thank my colleagues for collaborating on this important work, and I look forward to collaborating with them to implement these important actions that will lead to improved achievement, well-being, experiences, and outcomes for all Peel students, especially those who've been historically and currently underserved. This concludes the presentation of the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to ask Trustee Benjamin and Trustee Bailey to put it on the floor first. Okay, thank you. Question, concern for Superintendent Art. Okay, Trustee Pamela.
First of all, thank you so much. I learned so much when I was reading through this, and this report was beautifully done. So I really appreciated how much I learned from it, and there's just the level of detail. And you're right, like some of this is what we're already seeing in schools, and so it's exciting to see the plans for some of that work that is happening in real time right now, and the way that you're planning to continue it. So I wanted to say that first, and forgive me, I'm losing my voice a little bit today. So so I did have just a couple questions. So when I was reading through, I noted that so one of the things when you're talking about measuring progress, it was about the percentage of historically underserved students who meet and exceed provincial standards when it comes to EQAO math EQAO and report card assessments in terms of math, reading, and writing. And I know that in the past we had heard we'd heard from operations that there's some challenges in terms of measuring progress over time. And I was wondering how you're planning to do that, if there's a baseline that we're looking for, and sort of, you know, where we're starting that from, because we have had some challenges sort of looking for that measuring point.
So I want to begin by thank you, Trustee Primoli, for the question, and through you, Chair Green. You know, we see success kind of as looking at steady improvement, and we will be using Directive 9 as baseline data, and then continuing to look at ways of multiple measures of data in terms of how we're seeing success over time.
Great, thank you so much. I also noticed one of the other things that we're looking for measuring progress was the percentage of trustees who participate in human rights and equity PD. I know that right now we do have required trustee learning, so I believe that all of us are regularly participating in it. I was wondering if that would be additional, or if that's what we're already doing. And I just out of curiosity, I'm always happy to do more, but I didn't know if that was what we're currently doing, or if the plan was to extend that or expand it. Sorry.
I think building upon the work of the trustee annual learning plan, I think that would be ongoing learning that's going to be happening on an annual basis, because we know that we've never arrived at our learning around best practices of supporting, you know, underserved students and gaining a deeper understanding of equity. So I think as we're continuing to build on that work through multiple opportunities.
Fantastic.
And just to add to that, Trustee Pomele, the ministry now is running that session each year for trustee right across the province, because I was one of the trustees that was able to sit in that work team for the ministry. So every year now there's going to be a PD session coming out of the ministry for trustee around human rights, because we see that is integrity, and that's important in the work that we do every day.
That's fantastic. And through you, Chair, I can tell you how much I have gained from the training that we've already had, and how much I look forward to our future sessions. And so I'm really glad to hear that is work that will be continued. And again, if it does expand, I look forward to that also. I did also have a question. So the percentage of school staff who have undertaken professional development specific to equity and human rights to support fair student discipline practices. I was curious if this is included in the current PD that they're receiving when they already have those allocated days, or if we would be looking for that to be additional PD that's done either during their allocated working hours, or if that would be something that would be done on their own time.
So again, Trustee Primoli, thank you for the question, and through you, Chair Green, all newly appointed principals and vice principals receive training as it relates to Directive 21 around, you know, progressive discipline and making sure we're applying that, looking at all the mitigating factors. And there are, you know, various opportunities throughout the year where principals can engage in professional learning, whether it's at the beginning of the school day, at the end of the school day, as well as additional release time that can be offered. So various ways in which we'll be building that understanding. And our team also kind of goes out to family of school meetings to help support in building capacity.
That's great. Thank you. I do just have one last question, Chair, if that's okay through you. And as we've moved forward with the streaming of grade 9 and grade 10, one of the concerns that I think a number of us have been hearing about is the challenges for students who do have IEPs, and how we're managing to provide accommodations as we have moved into this point where we are working towards better providing for all students. And I don't know if there's, you know, something that we can do to expand to improve those accommodations for students who do require that additional support when they do go to grade 9, because that does seem to be a challenging transition year, or it has been in this past school year. That is something that I know I've received a number of calls about. So a flag, I guess, but I don't know if that's something else that that you may already be working on too.
Okay. Yes, Superintendent Api have a comment. Superintendent Api, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. In terms of the concerns that were raised, we are aware of that, and we have worked very closely with our special education department colleagues to be able to provide supports for our staff, so that way they're able to have a better and deeper understanding in terms of how to meet those student needs. We have provided professional learning in terms of recognizing the different needs of diverse learners within the classroom, and being able to make sure that they're structuring their lessons to be able to accommodate those needs. And where where necessary, modify curriculum as is necessary and as required as per students' IEP. So that is work that has started this year and will be continuing into next year and continue to build as we provide greater opportunities and strategies to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our students who are entering into the D-Stream classroom in grade 9 and beyond. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Superintendent Newby, if she has any further comments about our collaborative efforts.
Thank you, Superintendent Hoppy, and through you, Chair, I would echo what has been shared in terms of our approach to supporting students with special education needs through accommodations. We do extensive transition planning and work with the school staff to develop transition plans. Some transition plans are formalized within the IEP and others are best practice that's undertaken school-wide, because we recognize the importance of transitions for all students, not just the students who happen to have a formalized IEP. So we are undertaking that work in partnership with the curriculum department as well to ensure a smooth transition, especially between grade 8 and grade 9, which we categorize as a big T transition, involving many different stakeholders, in particular the secondary school staff, and as well transitioning to the support staff that are available for secondary schools as well. So I would echo what Superintendent Hoppy has shared and just add that transitions is a primary focus for us in supporting these streaming efforts.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both.
That's great. Thank you, everyone, for those responses. I appreciate it. And thank you again for the report.
Any other comments? No, sorry. It's not a question period, please, and thank you. No, sorry, Mr. This is a board meeting and it's for board business, and board business has been done here. Sorry, excuse me. This is a trustees, please. Okay, there is place for that, sir. We will give you a place for that. We will give you a place for that. Okay, we'll give you the place for that. Okay, all right. So here's what happened. Here's what happened. Let's get through the board meeting and then we can talk. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So let's finish the board meeting and we can talk. No, it is a board meeting. Okay. Excuse me. This is the board meeting, sir. Okay. All right. Okay. There's a motion, sir. Please do not interrupt the board meeting, and thank you. Okay. Yes, and I said to you, let me finish this process, then we can talk. Let's talk like human being. Yes, and I said yes. And I said, yes, I will speak to you. Let me get through the agenda, and I'll speak with you. Okay, right? So, can I have, there's a motion on the table that we approve the 4-year equity strategy action plan presented by our superintendent. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'll move on to item B on the agenda, Directive 17, and is reform of our guidance program system. Update 5, presentation. Sir, please. Okay, well, I'm saying to you, allow me to get to the agenda, sir, and then we will talk. Okay, no, I will stay back, myself and the director, we will talk with you. We will talk with you. No, this is not the time. This is the board meeting, please. Do not interrupt the board meeting, sir. Please. Okay. I will answer your question. Let me get to the agenda. I will answer them at the end. I will, sir, I have no problem answering your question, but I will answer them when the time is right. Okay? Okay? Right? Director Saru, I turn it over to you to introduce the Associate Director Silver.
Through you, Chair Green, I'm going to ask.
Sir, please, I said I will allow you and I will dialogue with you, but let us get through the agenda, please. Okay? Okay. I said, let me get through the agenda and we will answer your questions. Would it be before the adjournment? That's all I want to know. Okay, because you're not on the agenda, so I cannot answer your question. Okay. No, you have a problem, sir. I'm gonna ask you, please leave the podium at this time. Okay. No, please leave the podium and allow the director to speak. Thank you. Okay. All right, go ahead. It is a public place, but sir, it's not a place for you to come and disrupt the board meeting. I said to you, I'm offering you an opportunity. Go ahead.
Through you, Chair Green, I'll ask Associate Director Paul De Silva to present the report on Directive 17.
You're talking about policy 21, but policy 18. Director Silva, Associate Director De Silva, please. What are you afraid of? Let's address Directive 18. Let's address go ahead.
So, proceed. Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Chair Green. I'm pleased.
Go ahead, Director. Okay. Go ahead, Associate.
I'm pleased to present to you an update on the progress of the reformation.
You don't want to be held accountable. This board is not going to be held accountable. We were here before. We listened to the trustee bring up a motion. Not one single person was willing. Can you
continue?
Present the report,
Sorry,
please.
my apologies. I'm pleased to present to you an update on the progress of the reformation of the guidance program system as per Directive 17. Our aim is to develop and implement the plan that addresses the needs and expectations of students, while also focusing on remedying the
Directive
inequities,
18.
gaps in the support.
Sir, could you please don't interrupt? Okay. I said I will engage. Please don't interrupt. The Associate Director is presenting a report. Okay. The rules are meant for everybody. Directive 18 is clear. It's clear. Sir. Okay. Okay, please, excuse me. You're not on the agenda. You are not on the agenda. Directive 18 is not on the agenda. Okay? Directive 18 is not on the agenda. I have... Sir, you're not going to tell us how to run this board meeting. You will not tell us how to run this board meeting. When it's on the agenda, we will address it. I said when it's on the agenda, we will have that. And I said to you, at the end of the meeting, we will have a dialogue. Could you give us 10 or 15 minutes and then we can talk? We can talk. I said we will talk. I have no problem talking to you. Can you direct him to present the report, please?
Proceed.
Continue.
Again, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Hoppy to speak to Directive 17 report.
Director De Silva and through you, Chair Green, I would like to provide an update on the progress of the reformation of the guidance system. This is required as part of the ministry directives. However, the work will continue. For this presentation and is captured in the update, I would like to highlight the positive impact of the Black Excellence Guidance Resource Teacher position, the development of the communication to families, informing them of scholarship and bursary opportunities posted on the public-facing portion of the board site, the impacts lower enrollment has had on the number of Black guidance counselors in secondary and elementary schools, and on professionals needed, new and experienced guidance counselors in their role. Black Excellence administrator assigned guidance instruction a member of the to work as a member of an interdisciplinary and cross-panel team to support the implementation of Peel's School Improvement and Equity Plan, as reflected in the board's priorities of equity and inclusion, Engage Math, and Empower Modern Learners Addendum 2020. Over the course of this academic year, as the Black Excellence Guidance Resource Teacher, Gord Gallimore, worked in collaboration with the Instructional Coordinator of Guidance and Career Education, the Resource Teacher for Transition 7 to 10, graduation coaches, and other centrally assigned and school-based staff to support African, Black, and Afro-Caribbean student success. The role included providing leadership in support of implementing changes in programs, guidance, education, and services. He also successfully provided guidance services and pathway planning for Black students and families at the school and system. He also provided leadership, professional learning to guidance counselors in middle and secondary schools to build staff capacity. This positive work will continue and be built upon as it is part of a 3-year focus plan to address the issues raised in the ministry review.
Thank you, Superintendent Oppie. Trustee B. McDonald, Trustee Bailey, move it for me. Any question? Trustee Bailey, go ahead.
Sorry. Excuse me, Chair. Sorry. Through you, Chair. I have not finished my remarks as of yet. Sorry.
Sorry, Superintendent. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Through you, Chair. The Central Guidance Team worked successfully with the Communication Team to develop and communicate scholarship and ministry opportunities that are posted on the public-facing portion of the board site. Families have also been made aware of these scholarship and bursary opportunities through the My Blueprint course selection and planning tool and board-sponsored Black Student Association presentations. This ongoing work was also communicated through graduation coaches at various schools. Specifically, as evidence reported to the board on May 24, 2023 during the board meeting, or Directive 20, there was increased awareness of parent and guardian student awareness and understanding of secondary school program placement and the course selection decision process using the board's website, media, social media impressions, and community engagement. These efforts and best practices will continue as they have been proven to address the information gap experienced by Black students and families as raised in the ministry review. The ongoing monitoring of the number of Black counselors assigned to the guidance role in the secondary and elementary panel has been conducted in the superintendent staffing survey. These surveys are found in the report. Please note the information for the elementary panel was being collated as the report was being prepared, so I'm providing the elementary data now as part of my report orally. Elementary panel, the total number of Black educators in the guidance role for the upcoming year is 14.5. A decrease in enrollment contributed to the lower number of sections in both panels. However, ministry funding, which the board usually receives, has not been made available for the upcoming school year and has had greater impact on the total number of guidance sections available to allocate to our schools. Percentage of the total full-time enrollment, or FTE, for the upcoming year, 24% of guidance counselors in the secondary panel identified as Black. Coincidentally, 24% of the guidance counselors in the elementary panel also identified as Black. This positively reflects our collective efforts as a represent the doubling of the guidance counselors who identify as Black in both the secondary and elementary panel from 2021 to 2023. It is crucial to acknowledge that the issues faced by Black students, as highlighted in the ministry review, still persist. Therefore, it is imperative we continue encouraging deliberate staffing efforts to address these ongoing concerns. In terms of professional learning, to address the concerns raised to the ministry review, the intentional professional learning began in spring of 2020. Since the professional learning has been offered each year to all new experienced guidance counselors. The feedback gathered has been overwhelmingly positive, with guidance counselors being appreciative of the information and strategies for engagement for both students and families. In terms of our next steps, we will continue to monitor the impact of the Black Excellence Guidance Resource Teacher position. We will continue to enhance and refine communication to families, informing them of scholarship and diversity opportunities that are public-facing on the website. We'll continue to establish and monitor the development of school-based Black Student Association and Black Parent Associations across the system. We will continue to adhere to the timeline associated with actions as outlined in the October 19, 2020 Directive 7 report, and continue to monitor the number of Black guidance counselors in school-based positions captured through the Superintendent of Education survey, and use this information as a key determinant of the overall success of our efforts. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I do not know. I do not know. And guess what? Trustee Bailey, go ahead. It's just complete clear-cut ignorance. You can't vote on issues you don't
Through you,
know.
Chair.
You need to educate
Thank you,
yourself.
Superintendent Hoppy, for your report. I do believe you answered some of my questions during your presentation. However, I was not quite able to hear everything that you said due to people being disrespectful in here. However, can you? My first question is, I think you answered it, but I'm not quite sure.
Trustee Bailey, we can't hear you. Yet on February 27th, you went on the agenda, everything you said, all of your...
I wanted to know how many of the, in the chart,
Okay.
how many of them are full-time?
I'm going to ask you, sir. Okay, I'm going to ask you to leave the floor. Leave the board floor, please. Please. You're not going to bully us here tonight. Please leave the board floor. Okay. I need a motion to move to Brampton Road, please. Okay. Moving a motion to move to Brampton. Secondly, all those in favor?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we go to Brampton. Yes. Superintendent Hoppy, I'm sorry to do this to you, sir, but one of my colleagues have some question because of the disruption. She was unable to hear you. So I'm going to ask you just, if you could just reiterate, your report for us. We'd really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your time and patience.
Not a problem. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I would like to provide an update on the progress of the Reformation program system. Final one fired as ministry director. However, I would like to highlight the positive impact of Black Excellence Guidance Resource public-facing portion. The impact lower enrollment has had on the number of Black guidance counselors, secondary and elementary schools, and the ongoing professional learning needed to support new and experienced guidance counselors in their role. The focus of the Black Excellence Centrally Assigned Guidance Instructional Resource Teacher was to work as a member of an interdisciplinary and cross-panel team to support the implementation of Peelschools Improvement and Equity Plan, as reflected in the board's priorities of equity and inclusion, math, Empowering Modern Learners, Addendum 2020. Over the course of the academic year, as the Black Excellence Guidance Resource, Gord Gallimore worked in collaboration with Instructional Coordinator of Guidance and Career Education, the Resource Teacher for Transition 7 to 10, graduation coaches, and other centrally assigned and school-based staff to support African, Black, and Afro-Caribbean student success. The role included providing leadership in support of implementing changes and some guidance education and services. He also successfully provided guidance services and pathway planning for Black students and families, school and system level. The board also provided leadership and professional learning to guidance counselors in middle and secondary schools to build staff capacity. This positive work will continue and be built upon as it is part of a 3-year focus and plan to address the issues raised in the ministerial review. The central guidance team worked successfully with the communications team to develop and communicate scholarship and bursary opportunities that are posted on the public portion of the board site. Families have also been made aware of these scholarship and bursary opportunities, My Blueprint course selection and planning tool, and board-sponsored Black Student Association presentation. This ongoing work is also communicated through the graduation coaches at various schools. Specifically, as evidence reported to the board on May 20, 2020 during the board meeting as part of Directive 20, there was increased awareness of parent and guardian and student awareness and understanding of secondary school program placement and the course selection decision process using the board's website, media impression, and community engagement. These efforts and best practices will continue as they have been proven to address the information gap experienced by Black students and families as raised in the The ongoing monitoring of the number of Black counselors assigned to the guidance role in the secondary and elementary panel has been conducted through a superintendent staffing survey. The results of these surveys are found in the report. Please note, the information for the elementary panel was being collated as the report was being prepared, and so I'm providing the elementary data now as part of my report already. For the elementary panel, the total number of Black educators in the guidance role for the upcoming year is 14.5. A decrease in enrollment contributed to the lower number of sections in both panels. However, ministry funding, which the board usually receives, has not been made available for the upcoming school year and has had a greater impact on the total number of guidance sections available to allocate to our schools. As a percentage of the total full-time enrollment in FTE for the 24% of guidance counselors in the secondary panel identified as Black. Coincidentally, 24% of the guidance counselors in the elementary panel also identified as Black. This positively reflects our collective efforts, as these percentages represent a double number of guidance counselors identified as both the secondary and elementary panel from 2020 to 2023. It is crucial to acknowledge that the issues faced by Black students, as highlighted in the ministry review, still persist. Therefore, it is imperative we continue encouraging deliberate staffing efforts to address these ongoing concerns. In terms of the professional learning to address the concerns raised through the ministry review, it began in spring 2021. Since then, the professional learning has been offered each year to all new and experienced guidance counselors. Feedback gathered has been overwhelmingly positive, with guidance counselors being appreciative of the information and strategies for engagement for both students and families. In terms of our next steps, we will continue to monitor the impact of the Black students' guidance resource position. We will continue to enhance and refine communication to families, informing them of scholarship and bursary opportunities that are on the basic portion of the. We will continue to establish the development of school-based Black associations and Black women associations across the system. We will continue to adhere to the timeline and associated actions outlined in the October 19th, 2022 Director's report. And we will continue to monitor the number of Black guidance counselors in school-based positions captured through the Superintendents of Education survey and use this information as a key determinant of the overall success of our efforts. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Daly.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you for this report, Superintendent Hoppy. Just a couple of questions. How many of the guidance counselors reflected in the chart are full-time versus part-time?
Here. That information I do not have broken down at the time, but I can explain that it is going to vary between panels, only in schools, vary between panels, especially elementary, where the applications that are assigned to schools are typically found to be divided amongst teachers who will have other roles. But I do not have a specific breakdown of between each of the panels at this time.
So if I may, Chair, it's difficult. I think he's having connectivity issues. I think what Superintendent Hoppy was saying, oftentimes the question that you're posing is complicated because full-time meaning, are they teaching 6 sections in secondary, meaning they have a full complement of guidance. Oftentimes in secondary schools, a guidance counselor will have a variety of different sections. So they may have 3 sections of guidance or 3 sections of math and so on and so forth. So it's difficult to ascertain whether or not that's what you mean. In elementary, oftentimes the allocation is only 0.5 allocation depending on the enrollment within the school. So it varies between elementary, middle school versus secondary. But in terms of FTE, we could probably determine the full-time equivalent, which means gathering the total numbers for you, but certainly it would be different in terms of how many would be, and many teachers request a variety of packages, some guidance, some arts, so on and so forth.
Okay, because I'm just trying to figure out in the breakup makeup, how much time is spent as guidance and how much guidance how much time is available to Black students?
Through you, Chair. That would be a very difficult question to answer because we do not measure our time in terms of the identity of a student versus the identity of another student in terms of how much time a guidance counselor is spending during the course of the day and how they are supporting students within the school. That is not a measure, and there's no metric that we would gather to be able to provide that information for you.
So, just out of curiosity, so if a student wants to meet with a guidance counselor and they're in class, they have to book the time at a time that they're in guidance?
So through you, Chair. In the secondary panel, that is correct. They would need to book attendance. There are times that the guidance counselors would book so that they would be able to attend to the needs of the students. And that's information that happens on an annual basis where schools make the students aware of what their availability is in terms of how it's broken. So for example, most schools in fact are broken down by the alpha. So based on the last name of the student, and then they now have to meet during time which they're not typically in class. If they're in a time of crisis, then they would be able to meet as is needed. They would go through a process to be able to let the teacher know, and they'd be able to go down and meet with a guidance counselor in a time of crisis if the situation required that. In elementary, as Associate Director De Silva was mentioning, it's a bit more challenging to be able to provide that information because the allocation is not in the same manner, and there's not an allocation of a full counselor. So yeah, there is a requirement for students to be made aware of the availability of the guidance counselor. They need to meet based on scheduling of that guidance counselor, which varies with the school depending on the total allocation that was given.
Okay, thank you for that.
So Trustee Gillian is suggesting that maybe you connect with Superintendent. Yeah, connect with Superintendent Happy and have a more wholesome discussion. I think that would be better. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. First, I'd just like to thank you for your report, because I think this report shows why representation matters. It's the first time in 9 years that I've attended a scholarship awards ceremony, and there were actually more PDSB recipients than other boards. And I was asking the committee at the scholarship, what was different, and they had an overwhelming increase in the number of PDSB applicants. And even speaking with families and students at the BSA, they have mentioned that they see a change in the service that their children they are receiving. So I think kudos for that. That's very heartening. But my question is, how do you ensure that, because they were all from basically 2 schools, and the guidance counselors, I guess they had more representation from areas where guidance counselors were active and exposed the information to the students. So how do you ensure that guidance counselors, not only Black guidance counselors, disseminate scholarship information to Black students and underserved students, as well as like amazing opportunities, like they say the Carpenter Local 27, the apprenticeship program. Again, invariably, I speak to students and they don't know about it. So how do you ensure that all guidance counselors are in fact sharing the information?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Chair. It's a multi-pronged approach that we have taken since the ministerial review to make sure that we are reaching as many guidance counselors and therefore as many students as families as possible. Some of the efforts that we are taking to ensure that there's a greater increased awareness has to do with what was shared in the report and what was mentioned in the May 24th report through Directive 20 as increased communication channels. And so we are capitalizing on the ones that exist and forging new areas where we know where students reside through online social media platforms to be able to make sure that the messaging is available and is able to reach them. But we're also making sure that we provide the information to our guidance counselors and communicate where they would be able to receive and access that information that they in turn are going to share with the students in their school. We also make sure that we share the information with our administrators, so that way they now act as another tier of support in terms of making sure that they're aware of the opportunity, and they can also make sure that they connect with their guidance counselor teams at their respective schools, so that that information they can confirm the information that was shared is being disseminated in the manner as it was intended, by the central team sharing that information, and by other opportunities as they become aware that information is shared both digitally on our the guidance websites that we have centrally, as well as the school websites that are available to the family. So those are some of the ways in which we are ensuring that information is getting counselors and therefore getting to our families. But then the other manner that was mentioned in the report is that we're working directly with other, not only guidance counselors, but other other adults, other educators who have direct access to our students. So for example, our graduation coaches, making sure that they're aware of the information as well and working closely with them so that they can also share that information with our students, making sure that we work very closely with our our Black student associations and our Black parent associations, sharing the information there as well. So for all the different channels, checking to ensure that that information is shared and is available. And the key to this is also the timing, making sure that it's given in sufficient time that families and students are able to act on the information in a timely manner so that they can capitalize on the opportunities that do exist.
Okay, and thank you for that. And I was at another event, and actually it was even more than 50%. It was 8 of the 11 recipients, and I attended that event with AD Logan. She was there also, and that was 8 over 10. That was even higher than the week before, so that was really, really good. And in your response, would that include even things like SAL, like SEA claims, all the different resources that are available too? Would that fall under that too?
Through you, Chair. Yes, our guidance counselors, as you're well aware, plays a very pivotal role in the dissemination of a lot of information. And so what we do as a system is make sure that the ebb and flow of information as we go through different periods throughout the year, that our guidance counselors are made aware of this information in advance, so that way they have the opportunity to structure how they're going to share the information within their schools. So for example, in terms of the information that you're mentioning around SAL, or in the information that you're mentioning around SEA claims, we work very closely with our colleagues in special education, so that way the information is consistent and is accurate as the guidance counselors are sharing this information. And then we utilize those who have areas within the special education space as the example you put. So that way it's consistent information that's being disseminated not only through the guidance counselor, but through the special education resource teacher and or the department head of special education and secondary, as an example. So we work collaboratively, so that way, again, the information is consistent and it's being found in multiple areas.
Thank you.
Any other question? I see none. All those in favor of the report? Thank you. Carries. Thank you, Superintendent Talking, for that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move down to 15 and 15.2. I'm going to turn over to Director Swaroop to introduce Associate Director Gill.
Through you, Chair Green, I will ask Associate Director Jasper Gill to present the Employment Systems Review Report.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Chair Green. Chair, I'm going to ask Executive Officer Kandula to introduce the report, and then we will be happy to respond to your questions.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Associate Director Gill, and through you, Director Swaroop and Chair Green. I am presenting a report on the completion of Directive 24, the Employment Systems Review, in addition to the completion of the Journey Ahead Review and the Workforce Census. The board retained an independent expert Turner Consulting Group to conduct a comprehensive employment systems review, including a review of the implementation of the recommendations of the 2013 Turner Consulting Group research report on hiring and promotion at the PDSB. The consultant additionally conducted a workforce census. The census is a count of employees in an organization used to understand the diversity of the workforce. Turner Consulting Group engaged in a comprehensive process to collect data and feedback to conduct an analysis of the board's employment-related policies and processes, a review of the journey ahead recommendations, and administer a workforce census. The reports are attached for your review and receipt. We thank Turner Consulting Group for their efforts in completing the reviews. We also express our sincere regrets for comments that have come across as undermining the principles of research and report writing by the Turner Consulting Group. In light of the ministry review and with the strategic direction of the board, we have continued in our efforts to prioritize the hiring of Black and Indigenous staff. The board has undertaken several initiatives to increase staff diversity. Through the workforce census and the collection of disaggregated race and identity-based data, both are urgent and necessary to dismantle anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, and all forms of discrimination and racism, as well as broader issues of systemic discrimination within the PDSB as reported within the ministry review. The reports attached provide intersecting findings and recommendations that will be reviewed and a project plan developed to implement the recommendations, in addition to the development of the fairness and equity in employment strategy. By way of next steps, Human Resources will review the report and formulate a project plan for the implementation of the recommendations of the ESR, and we will be bringing updates as required. The recommendations from the report will also assist with the framing of the PDSB's equity and fairness in employment strategy. That concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, let me put it on the floor first. Trustee Brad McDonald, Trustee Will Davies put it on the floor. Trustee B. McDonald, and Trustee K. McDonald.
I want to thank everyone for this report and Tanner Turner Consultant. This a very wholesome review of our situation and itemizing priorities, and this is just a comment and recommendations. And because of that, I'd like to put a motion arising from this report on the floor. I copied the trustees, but I'll read it if that's okay, Chair.
That's fine, but could we allow those that have questions first before the motion?
Absolutely.
So I'll go to Trustee McDonald. Yes, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So I have a couple of questions. So under recommendation 16, I'm not even sure if it fits under section 5.1 or the social media policy. And this is, I guess, in response to what's happening of late on Twitter, where an individual claims to have gotten this letter anonymously and lists a whole host of infractions that students or a few students have allegedly committed. So I was just wondering if in here, if that is addressed, because I think that when I think of the risk that the board is exposed to when staff, yes, I understand freedom of speech, but if you give personal information about students, I think that's concerning. And, I think that it's important that we have to ensure that, yes, you don't want to infringe on people's freedom of expression, but at the same time, we have a duty to protect children's privacy. And I think that trumps everything. And I think when people are giving identifiable information about students, that's really concerning to me. So I'm not sure where it should go on the recommendation 16 or 17, but I think I'd like to see somehow that is explicitly stated in one of the policies. I'm not sure, I guess I'd leave it up to you to decide where it should be, but I think it's really important, and I have a big concern about that.
So, Trustee McDonald, is you're asking a question, or you're making suggestions?
But this one is I guess register my concern, and highlighting something I find is concerning. And my question is, I'm not sure if it falls under the social media policy piece or if it falls under the use of information technology resources policy. Because again, I'm not sure if you're able to track where are you? That could be a question actually. Are you able to track on social media if it's coming from a board device?
So, Trish, I don't know, Ms. Turner is online, and if she wrote the report, she did the research. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Tana, if there's any comments that you wanna make around that, please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, that's an interesting question, Trustee McDonald. And certainly I think there may be elements that might need to be reflected in both policies.
Okay, thank you for that. Now in recommendation 25, it is recommended that temporary appointment to position of greater responsibility policy be revised to require the posting of temporary assignments longer than 3 months. But what would happen, for example, let's say somebody was originally appointed to a position for, say, 2 months, and then let's say somebody was on leave and it was extended for another month or 2 months. How would you recommend that be addressed? Because if you just say it has to be posted if it's longer than 3 months, but then what happens if it ends up being longer than 3 months, but originally it wasn't planned to be 3 months?
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. I think, and that is something the policy will need to address, because sometimes there's unanticipated extensions of these temporary assignments, but sometimes it can be anticipated. And in that case where it is maybe, say, they know it's a 6-month contract or assignment, and they put it for 2 months and then keep extending it to get to 6 months, that's a different situation, right? And that's sometimes what we see people do in order to get around the rules. Right, so certainly that's going to need to be addressed through that policy.
Okay, thank you for that. I also have by recommendation 32, you recommend that the PDSD educate staff about employees and students' use of preferred names and pronouns. So what about staff and students that don't want to use preferred names or pronouns? Is this recommendation saying that all staff should be and students must be forced to use recommended pronouns?
I'm not clear on the question, because everybody has a name that they use and a pronoun and pronouns that they use. So
no. So the question, I would be like, for example, sometimes I've been at meetings and people would say, okay, what's your preferred pronoun? But there are people that say, I don't want to say my preferred pronoun. So that's what I'm saying, is this policy saying that every staff and student would have to say their preferred pronoun?
No.
But some people don't. Okay.
Right, but when they do identify a preferred name or pronoun, that should be honored.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I have a question on recommendation 93. So the I'm very happy. I guess this is more like a comment, or I'm very happy that this is in there, because I've gotten a lot of complaints and comments made from principals that, during COVID, for example, staff were not required, it's not mandatory to turn on cameras. And a lot of the mandatory human rights training occurred during COVID. And there were a lot of people who just simply turned on their cameras and walked away. And, at the end of meetings, you have the staff, in one case, waited over half an hour and was just saying, hello, hello, nobody was answering. And, it was the anticipated individuals who the staff, the administrator felt that was important for them to get the training, but had no way of. So I'm really happy of seeing this in there. And I just want to thank you so much for your work. It was great reading, and it was a very well-written report. And the only other question I have through you, Chair, and I'm not sure if it's for Tana Turner or if it's for staff, but with regards to the hiring, when you mentioned the targeted hiring, so there was a motion passed on the targeted hiring, and to my knowledge, it has not occurred yet. And I'm just wondering if it didn't make its way, I guess, into the presentation, but I'm wondering when will it occur?
So I'm going to turn it over to Director.
Yes, through you, Chair Green, I will ask Executive Sumant to respond.
Thank you for that question, Trustee McDonald, and through you, Chair Green. We have been actively recruiting and conducting several focused recruitment fairs for Black and Indigenous staff since 2019. There was a pause during the COVID period. We couldn't run that, and unfortunately, we had to pivot all to remote ways of knowing and understanding. But we have been conducting these since 2019 when the initiative began. And thus far, through this initiative, we have some data collection where we asked for identification as well. And to date, we've hired 221 occasional teachers, DECEs, and EAs who identify as Black and Indigenous, representing 24% of all offers for casual positions for such candidates.
Thank you for that. But in the motion, it was when the staff report said that they were going to have that each person, as long as you had your OCT or whatever qualifications the job required, that you get an interview, and that has not happened because a lot of people in the community are saying that they got hired. A lot of people living in PE, but they say they got hired at the TDSB, they got hired at York, and they weren't given an interview here. And the message that went out to the public was communicated that once they identified, right, self-identified, that they would get an interview, and that has not happened, which is still the basis of the motion.
So, Trustee McDonald, why don't we ask staff then to take a look into that and maybe report back to at a later date?
Okay,
because they wouldn't basically characteristically break that down for us to say this happened here and this what happened. Let's ask staff just to report back at a later date around the targeted hiring and the motion itself.
Thank you. Okay. And actually, sorry, I saw I had one other pick. My actual really last question here is on in recommendation 100. It says defining key terms and concepts, and I would I guess my question is, could Tana Turner please list some of the key terms, because there are terms that, again, as I go around schools, that a lot of people find problematic, and a lot of people don't understand some of the terms that are used. So the term, for example, white supremacy is a very triggering term for many, and it also, a lot of people feel that it absolves some communities from the responsibility their roles in dismantling anti-Black racism. So I think I would like to see like a list of terms, if that's possible, that I think is imperative that is defined.
I think what's going to happen is there are a number of policies out of this report will be developed, and we have a governance policy committee that these policies will come to Trustee McDonald. And I think it's important that as trustees, because these are key pieces for you, and these are key interests that when those policies come to the table. You look out for when those policies start coming to the table and make sure that you have a voice at the table. So those can be implemented as part of, as we move forward. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I kind of had a comment on my question to her.
Donna, did you have a comment? No, she don't have a comment. So, Trustee Alt, have a question of clarification?
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, Chairman. Trustee McDonald, can you clarify your first point? I really didn't understand what you meant. You referenced an anonymous letter, but I wasn't sure if you're referring to the one at Tompkins. I still understand that that's under investigation, but you mentioned that there was identifiable information. I wasn't sure if you were suggesting that the letter itself identified someone or if staff did, but I haven't gotten the findings from the investigation. If you could clarify.
Right, no, I'm speaking generally, but the Thompson case was the one that's in the media now. So for example, mentioning that a kid had defecated in a washroom, in that community, in that school community, people could know who that child is. And now it's on Twitter. And that child who did that act could be triggered because it's getting traction and a lot of people are seeing that child could have mental health issues, could be trafficked, could be sexually abused, because we don't know what and the why of that incident. So I think we need to be sensitive when we tweet about what's happening to student, like a specific student, especially something so specific.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So if I understand your point of, I guess it was a point of clarification, I guess you offered, or question, a roundabout way, was that you want staff to ensure that this policy prevents PDSB staff from listing identifiable information publicly.
Well, I know we can't prevent the staff from doing anything, so I wasn't asking them to prevent anything. But I'm saying in the policy, if they could address things, and I wasn't sure, as I said, I wasn't sure which section it fell under, but I think we need to have in the policy directions as to what is appropriate to tweet out about our students in terms of if they're having a mental health crisis or behavior. Because I know also from personal experience of other incidences where, a kid will do something in the school and if it's on Twitter, everyone could know who that person is. And the child had severe abuse that was happening. So it's not like, healthy, usually mentally well children get up and will poop on the floor. So I'm just saying, we need to make sure that our staff understands the ramifications of putting things, of a student who's entrusted in our care, their bad judgment or inappropriate acts.
So if I may,
Thank you, through Chair. My closing comments. Thank you. I think I understand your feedback. I wouldn't want to overshare, allow staff to bring back a report. I think something like that already exists to prevent staff from identifying minors, but it's a good point, and I think it does exist, and we'll see what the findings are from the investigation.
Okay. So I was just going to suggest in situation like this, I think it's important that we basically give staff opportunity if there's something happen, and then we maybe bring it to the attention of the director or the AD that is in charge, so that they can bring it to staff attention around that, around any circumstances like this. I thank you for that. At this point, I don't see any other question. However, I have Trustee Brad McDonald and I also have Trustee Pameli, who also has a motion coming out of this report. And before you go there, I want to thank Tana Turner for the report. And I think it was May 31st. We had an awesome walkthrough. We heard everything that happened. And I'm really glad that we were able to compare this report with the journey ahead from 2013 and see the difference and see that we have made progress in terms of equity hiring over the last 10 years. And I don't like to pop myself on the back, but I'm glad that I was my motion and Steve Kavanagh that brought about the journey ahead. and worked with Jim Grieve and Director Fontes and Tana was there from that time. We worked together. Chuck Waterman was the curriculum superintendent at the time when that came about, and I'm glad to see that there's progress comparing that we have made over the last 10 years. So thank you. So I'll turn it over to you, Trustee B. McDonald, right now.
Thank you. And I'll just echo those reflective notes. We were both on the board at the time, and it started off some great work in conjunction with our TAN Turner Consulting. And this present report has provided a lot of over 100 recommendations. And because of that, I think as trustees, I think it's important to us to ensure that this report has actions to it. So that's where my motion comes from, and I'll read it. Now, whereas the following employment system review identifies 4 key priorities and many recommendations to be addressed. Be it resolved that the staff bring a report to the board on a plan on how to implement these recommendations, which includes considering the possibility of creating a strategic vision for that implementation.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. And do you have a seconder for that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have a couple, but yes.
Okay, all right, okay. Trustee, I'll be the one at that. Okay, all right, okay. So we all heard the motion. Do we have any discussion on the motion?
Just a quick one.
Sure.
I was just wondering if Trustee McDonald, do you want any time frame until when staff should bring this report?
And that's a good question. I know historically it's important to put a time frame, but there's over 100 here, so I'm not going to put any kind of restrictions on when the staff need to come up with this. And maybe they can also bring a report that may be preliminary and then final. So I will leave it to the judgment of the staff. But thank you for that great question.
Okay, all right. See none. I'm gonna call it. Question. All those in favor? Let's carry it. Thank you. Thank you. And then Trustee.
Okay, and I do also want to echo the comments. Thank you again for this. Oh, thank you. Yes, Mike, I always forget. Thank you again for this report, and thank you for the time that was taken to walk us through it just a couple weeks ago, because I learned, again, so much from all of the work that was put into here, and I think it gave us a great insight into more about what's happening in terms of our staff, and these are the people who spend their lives working with our kids. So I thought it was really helpful, and I appreciate the deeper dive that I was able to get reading through everything going back again tonight. So, well, the last few days. So thank you. So I do have a motion. It is not as brief as Brad's. My apologies, but bear with me for a moment. So whereas Peel District School Board (PDSB) has established a 4-year comprehensive equity strategy, which is a roadmap to close gaps in achievement and well-being experienced by students who have been historically and currently underserved. And whereas PDSB's Employment Systems Review recognizes that some people who identify as 2S LGBTQ+ report having to remain in the closet to maintain positive relationships with their managers and colleagues, protect their jobs, and protect their opportunities for advancement. And whereas the results of PDSB's review and census suggest self-identification rates that are inconsistently low compared with self-identification rates shared by other school boards. And whereas PDSB is setting the bar high and making great strides towards improving equity and addressing the education and safety needs of students with strategies and plans aimed towards anti-Black racism, Islamophobia, and the underserved needs of Indigenous peoples. And whereas the Ontario Human Rights Code recognizes there are 17 protected grounds that require action and attention to protect against discrimination, and that these 17 protected grounds may sometimes or often be intersectional or competing, but not superseding over each other. And whereas schools throughout PDSB have reported increased challenges during this school year relating to Pride Month, Pink Shirt Day, and Day of Pink, and the teaching of the health curriculum. And whereas we have received increased reports of widespread planned absences, requests for exemptions regarding human rights education, and an increase in reports of verbal, emotional, and physical abuse. Therefore, be it resolved that staff return to the Board of Trustees at the September 2023 board meeting with an information report, including a staff action plan focusing on the 2S LGBTQ+ community to improve the response of the board to better provide a safe and welcoming school environment where every student, staff member, and family knows they belong. And further, that the report should include comparisons in the proposed response to other district school boards' responses and outline progress that has been made together with challenges being faced. And further, that the report should include comprehensive information on the prevalence and impact of incidents and the effectiveness of the measures currently in place and proposed. Yes.
Okay, you have a seconder for that?
I do, Trustee Allison.
Okay, Trustee Holmes.
Through you, Chair, I'm delighted to second this motion. I'm going to read a small excerpt on page 109. Two LGBTQ plus teachers shared the students are a significant source of the homophobia and transphobia that they're experiencing. Some felt that because these issues are not being addressed in the curriculum, and because an inclusive learning environment is not being established, students have been given the message that they can continue to express homophobic and transphobic attitudes. Two LGBTQ plus teachers also expressed their concerns about the learning environment being experienced by two LGBTQ plus students. That excerpt, I think for me, clearly defines why I think this report is so needed. So just wanted to echo Trustee Promoli's comments and commend her on her great work putting this motion together, and I'm proud to support it.
Any other comments? To Trustee Bailey.
I'm gonna say, I do echo what, I support your motion, because reading this report, and in it was one of the last panel meetings that we had where, it went through the stats for us. It really highlighted why this is so necessary, so I do support your motion. Thank you for that.
All right, any other comments?
Oh, and can I have a report in on that, please?
Okay, all right. Any other comments?
I have some.
Go ahead.
Thank you. In this report, South Asian communities are not included, so I'm just wondering if we think that this community is not facing any discrimination or equity issues. I was just wondering that if students from South Asian communities are just considered not underserved, just a little clarification.
In the motion, you're talking, Trustee Joel?
Just for clarification,
Oh.
because I heard that underserved students, but I don't know which underserved students, if South Asians.
Oh, I mean, so this motion specifically is speaking to the needs of the 2S LGBTQ plus community, but of course there are intersectional needs. So there are students from every community who may belong to multiple communities, right? So I think as we're seeing the incredible work that is being done by our staff here at PDSB to make sure that we are meeting the needs of students from all backgrounds, from all needs. This is just one more place where we do need to be maybe paying a little bit more, giving a little bit more focus, because we are hearing some concerning results coming back right now. And so it's there. I don't think there's anyone excluded in this. It's just ensuring that we have had some concerns come back, and so this is an effort to address those in particular. But I would not exclude anybody from this.
So basically, your motion is asking for a report.
It's asking for a report and including a staff action plan focusing on the 2S LGBTQ plus community to improve the response.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, okay, so any more questions or comments? I'm seeing that she's asking for a recorded vote, which she can ask for. So those in favor, can you raise your hands? I think it's unanimous. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, great.
Thank you all so much.
All right, okay, so we're gonna move down to our next agenda item, which is 15.3, which is our Integrity Commissioner Annual Report. And we have Senator Barnes and Parker, our Integrity Commissioner, and they're online. And they're going to present to us. I know it's only a few months, but it is required that they present an annual report. So I'll turn it over to you at this time to speak to us.
I'm just testing my audio.
Okay.
Still getting feedback.
I think we can hear you clearly.
Better. Can you still hear us?
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Green. Thank you, everyone, for inviting us to speak with you tonight. Just to really briefly reintroduce ourselves, as many of you know or will recall, our firm, Parker Sim LLP, was appointed as the Integrity Commissioner for Peel District School Board in January of 2021 as part of the PDSB's compliance with the Ministry of Education's directives, which were issued in response to the review of Peel District School Board in November 2020. As everyone here knows, the ministry issued 27 directives under the Education Act with over 54 action items, many of which were aimed at establishing strong accountability measures and responsibilities, establishing good governance and modeling equity-focused leadership at all levels of the PDSB. Directives 1 through 8 and 13 address governance issues, with Directive 4 specifically requiring the PDSB to retain an additional integrity commissioner with demonstrated experience and expertise in the application of human rights principles and the application of the Ontario Human Rights Code to be responsible for code of conduct complaints which involve human rights issues. So we, the partners of Parker Sim LLP, were selected following a competitive process through which the firm demonstrated its expertise in investigation and resolution of conflict issues, as well as a really deep expertise in the area of human rights. We are regularly retained as third-party independent investigators by employers and other organizations, including political parties and other integrity commissioners, to investigate sensitive and highly impactful alleged violations of anti-discrimination and harassment policies, codes of conduct, the Human Rights Code, and other relevant legislation. And now we have the pleasure of acting as integrity commissioners of the PDSB, and to discuss our work in that capacity, I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Senator Parker.
Thank you. Just to echo Morgan's comments, thank you for having us this evening. I'm going to speak at a very high level on some of the content that's included in the report that's contained in tonight's board package. So as you all know, the role of Integrity Commissioner is described in an appendix to the Trustee Code of Conduct. Oh, sorry. Generally speaking, our role can be divided into 3 parts. The first being education, the second being advisory, and the third being an investigative function into complaints of alleged violations of the Trustee Code of Conduct. Until early 2023, the PDSB was under supervision by the Ministry of Education. And one of the consequences of ministerial supervision, and specifically Directive 3, was the suspension of the complaint protocol under the Trustee Code of Conduct. That suspension was to be lifted, or was to be in place until the minister was satisfied that the board is able to work together and with the Director of Education and associate directors to provide good governance. The board was able to satisfy the minister earlier this year, and the suspension was lifted. Until that time, however, the directive limited the Integrity Commissioner's function by temporarily suspending our ability to inquire into and investigate allegations of violations of the Trustee Code of Conduct. So that third bucket of our function was temporarily suspended in the first 2 years of our appointment. As a result, from 2021 to 2022, our role really focused on the education and advisory responsibilities, and the details of that work is contained in the report. During that period of suspension, however, we were made aware of 3 complaints regarding alleged violations of the Trustee Code of Conduct, and all complaints received during that period were reviewed but not considered due to the application of Directive 3. As set out in the report, we now wish to provide direction and just confirmation, really, that the Integrity Commissioner will consider requests made in writing to proceed with a complaint delivered between June 2020 and January 2023. As noted in the report, all requests to proceed with a previously delivered complaint ought to be received by September 1st, 2023, or we will deem it to be withdrawn. We just want to say that we really do look forward to continuing to support the trustees in governing in the best interests of the Peel District School Board, students, their families, and community at large. And we're very much looking forward to engaging with you more directly. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us if we can be of any assistance.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for tonight's presentation. Much appreciated. Can I ask Trustee McDonald and Trustee Davey to put this on the floor? Okay, and Trustee B. McDonald have a question, and Trustee K. McDonald followed by.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to your last, thank you through you, Chair. I'll go to your last comment, and it's kind of summarized on the bottom of page 6 about the complaint process, and then you're opening it up from June 2020 to January 2023, and I'm a little, concerned about that because in our code of conduct, it's clearly stated timelines are 6 months from offense. So I was understanding that directive basically washed everything away until we then went and started in, I guess, when we opened it up in January. So I don't know how we can go back 3 years now and reassess stuff that is now gone, water under the bridge. So I don't know if that's a question for our governance person or if it's our integrity commissioner. I don't need an answer today because I know it's an objection to something and maybe you have to think about it, but I just want to know that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Trustee K. McDonald.
So I have the exact same question, and I actually was thinking that we should go to see Pat case because it's even if somebody, and the way it's worded, it's only going to be considering the previously made complaints when we were told explicitly that all complaints were suspended. So, right. So even if, let's say, somebody had a complaint, we couldn't bring it forward because we were told it was suspended. So to my shock, I'm hearing now that there are 3 that there are considerations. I have great concerns about that, and I think that would it needs to be addressed.
Okay. All right. And from the chair, I think to our integrity commissioner, I would concur with my 2 colleagues because I was one of the person at the time, myself and Brad McDonald, that the AD had met with to talk to us about that and to tell us that it was suspended and everything else to put on hold. When the minister had given the green light, well, in my discussion, when the minister had given the green light, because I'm the one as chair who had the discussion with the ministry, and they gave us the green light, and I asked for that in writing so that we could provide that to you so that you can start working. There was nothing in that to say that we were going to go back down the road. I think, I think, in my opinion, speaking, that it was to move forward, keep going forward, because the fact that we also have a new board and with many new trustees. So I can see from my perspective and my opinion how going back to 2020, case being considered and how that is still relevant. So just the comments. So I'm going to ask you to please review that, and maybe if there's any concern about that, I think it's important that we have a discussion with the ministry before we go back to those. Those are just, and the reason why I'm making those comments because I'm the one who had that conversation with ministry when the code of conduct was lifted, and so I think, if something was not clear when, I spoke to them, I would like that to be clear. If need be, I'm willing to go back and ask those questions, so that, because I also want everything that we do to be clear and transparent, and I also want my trustees to, able to feel confident in the work that we are embarking upon together as we move forward. So just a comment, and you can, maybe check for yourself, or you can reach out to me if you want me to have that discussion and come back to you. But I am totally concurring that going back basically, was not part of the discussion that I had with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Green and trustees. We have heard your feedback and appreciate it. We will take that into consideration. And I do just want to be clear that as it currently stands, we don't have any active complaints from that period. So we are not talking about any investigations or complaints that have been revived. That was simply our intention to limit the time within which they could be. But we have heard your comments and we'll circle back.
All right, thank you. Trustee Cole, I see your hands raised.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm just going to read a few lines here, and I'm just going to ask that this be clarified for me. It says that in the formal complaint process, it is expected that whenever possible, allegations of a breach of the code of conduct shall be investigated following the informal complaint process. So, let's just say one trustee has a complaint about another trustee, which is set out in section 7.1 of the complaint protocol. It is, I'm trying to clarify, do we need to put in writing our concerns to that other trustee? And then once we reach out to that trustee, and if both trustees consent, then our legal team could participate in resolving or attempting to resolve the issues relating to the complaint? Or are we not to be reaching out to that other individual?
I'll turn it over to the Integrity Commissioner to answer that question for you. And either Senator Barnes or Megan, anyone, if you can respond.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Green, we would be happy to provide advice or clarifications with respect to the interpretation of the complaints protocol. When I think that for this, but this may not be the best forum in which to do so. So if Trustee Cole or any of the other trustees want to talk about or better understand any provisions of the code of conduct or complaints protocol that's currently in place, we'd be happy to have those conversations and provide that clarity. But I think that when we'd encourage them to reach out to us directly in order to have those conversations about how those particular provisions could be interpreted or applied in the specific circumstances which the trustee is encountering.
Thank you very much for that. Okay. All right. Okay, I see no other question. Trustee Cameron, you move this to me. Trustee Clark, second. All those in favor of the report? Thank you. Thank you for that report, and we look forward to continue working with you both. Have a great evening. Take care. Okay, so we're going to move down to item 15.4, which is our board meeting schedule, and our governance officer, Ms. Locklear, is going to present this for us.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Before you is the board and committee meeting schedule for the 2023-2024 year. The schedule includes board meetings, committee meetings, and trustee learning sessions. The days of significance calendar was used to inform the available meeting dates and times. Of note is the discipline committee, as it's scheduled weekly. If a meeting is not required, it will be canceled. Given the legislative timeframes for having an expulsion hearing or a suspension appeal, it makes more sense to schedule the meetings and then cancel if not necessary. Additional board meetings can be called by the chair of the board, and additional committee meetings can be called by the chair of the committee if further meeting dates are required throughout the year. The schedule of all of the meetings that are open to the public will be posted on the website. Agendas for those meetings that are posted on the website in accordance with the notice period specified in the procedure bylaw is typically 5 days before the meeting. Trustees will receive calendar notices for all the board and committee meetings. Happy to take any questions.
Any question? Trustee Benjamin.
My only question is, beginning with, the new term in the fall, will all the committee meetings be in person or it's going to be hybrid? Are we continuing the hybrid model?
Thank you for your question, and through you, Mr. Chair, they will be hybrid model.
So to add to that, because sometimes we get the agenda, it says hybrid, and then sometimes it says in person. So there is a little bit of confusion, and sometimes the members of the committees, and it happened recently, could not get into the meeting because it was supposed to be it was in person, and they assumed that it would be hybrid. So just this clarification.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, I think you're referring to the CAC committee, and the CAC committee is in person only, it's not hybrid. However, and we try to make that clear on the agenda, it is noted that it is in person only, but we were required to put the sort of the Teams invite on there because we're live streaming. So we still have to have the technology available to be able to live stream, but the attendance is in person. There is direction from the ministry that meetings should be hybrid, so we will be working with SEAC in the fall about hybrid versus in-person meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Bailey.
Thank you, through your chair. I noted that the meetings for the committee meetings started at 5:30 p.m. Those of us who do work, that is a very challenging time for us. Is there a reason that it's so early?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. 5:30 is the historic time that committee meetings started to try to balance so many late evenings, not only for the trustees, but also for staff. So it was a compromised time, recognizing that it is sometimes challenging for trustees that work during the day as well.
Is there a possibility to move it half an hour?
With a vote from the board, yes, that it's at the will of the trustees.
So do I have to put a motion? Okay.
Can we do it now?
Can I move a motion to move our committee meeting started from at 6 o'clock instead of 5:30?
But just 1 second before we rush ahead, because we have to also take the staff into consideration because they are here all day going through. So why don't we make a suggestion, especially those staff that lead the various committees, like for instance, curriculum, we have superintendent API, we have different curriculum, there's a superintendent and several principals. Why don't we ask governance officer to go back, have a discussion, come back, because we can put that motion anytime to change that. Okay, because we want to be fair to everyone, right? So we have to take our staff into consideration. So also, instead of we just show a motion, leave them out in the cold, that they doesn't have a voice, we want to make sure that everybody have a voice. Can I make that suggestion?
Sure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not sure how it works. Do they not flex their time down?
No. They're in the morning, some of them are here from 7, 8 o'clock. just like we go to work. Trustee David, I have a question.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Have we found that the number of days of significance and red days and red dot days are overworking our staff because we only have meetings on those days? And is it a suggestion to maybe look at the number of days and reduce them?
So That's a discussion that we, the director and I, and our governance officer have been having, because not only that is challenging for us to do board business, but we are finding also out in the school for principal, it is becoming very challenging. So that's something that we're talking about as we move forward. And I think one of the things that we talk about is also to look at what maybe across the province, what's going on across the province and so forth. So we're looking into it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other question? See none? We already have some.
Hold on, what were we doing?
Huh?
What were we doing?
Okay, you have another question?
Yes, I want to know where are we going with, are we moving it to bring a report back, or to, what are we doing?
Okay, so, we're gonna ask, our governance officer to bring a report back to us. We'll receive it, we'll receive the dates, but we'll bring a report back. So, go ahead.
Could we at least move the dates?
Yes.
And then we can talk about the time at
Right.
another meeting, but if we don't get the dates, there's
Yeah.
a lot of pressure because a lot of other events need to be
Mhm.
scheduled as well, and we're fairly insistent that the trustee dates go first. So we're actually waiting for these dates. So if at least the dates could be reserved.
Yes.
And approved this evening, and then I'll come back with the time for committee meetings.
Yes. Trustee Bailey is moving it. Trustee Benjamin is seconded. All those in favor? Okay, all right, so you got some work to do. Thank you. Okay, all right, we will move down to 15.5, and again, this one is going to be presented by our governance officer. Okay.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Before you is a report to establish a board and committee agenda review committee. The purpose of the committee is to make recommendations for committee membership, make recommendations for agenda development of all board and committee meetings, make recommendations for board and committee meeting schedules, and to make recommendations for managing correspondence received by the board. The committee membership is the board chair and vice chair, and the chair and vice chair of each of the 3 standing committees, being the Curriculum, Equity, and Student Wellbeing Committee, the Governance and Policy Committee, and the Physical Planning, Finance, and Building Committee. The committee would ensure that there is input from the chairs and vice chairs of the board and each standing committee for the development of the agenda and reports for the respective meetings. Historically, the agendas have been developed by staff with input from the board chair and the respective committee chairs. The committee will change that practice to include a broader perspective of all of the chairs and vice chairs to collaboratively develop the agendas with input from staff. This committee will begin in the fall of 2023. There have been no meetings scheduled at this time, as the calendar of board and committee meetings was just approved a few moments ago. If the establishment of this committee is approved, legal and governance staff will undertake scheduling meetings of the board and committee agenda review committee to coincide with timelines for the preparation and distribution of board and committee meeting agendas. The timelines required for this committee will impact the timelines for staff in developing reports and agendas for meetings. There will be an adjustment period needed to shift the usual report development cycle to facilitate the recommendations of the board and committee agenda review committee. The scheduling of meetings for this committee will take that into account as best as possible and will honor the timelines required for information gathering and report development. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to ask Trustee Chahal and Trustee Kamali to put this on the table. You got a question?
Sure. Thank you, Chair, through you, Chair. So maybe you could just walk me through it in layman's terms. So an agenda gets set, and then that committee needs to accept that agenda before the meeting?
I think that the intention of the committee is that the committee will help to develop the agenda. Currently, right now, that is what you described as what is happening, is that staff are working on an agenda. We're talking to the committee chairs, working out the agenda. This committee will actually add to that process by having more voices in the agenda development.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much for putting this together.
Thank you. And don't forget, we work in conjunction with the director to make sure that this works and happens. All the agenda is the board agenda, and the reason for doing this, because it's the board agenda, we want to make sure that the important reports that are coming to boards are, what we need to ensure that we are not only aligning everything with our strategic plan and our annual learning plan. So it's important that we have this. So I want to thank you for able to do this, and we look forward to working with the director to make sure all of this is in place. So we already have, go ahead, Trustee Madonna.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just wondering, will there be minutes generated from this committee?
Yes, there will be minutes that will record the agendas.
Thank you.
Trustee Cameron.
Thank you. This is another committee for people to have to meet, especially chairs and vice chairs. I guess if you don't want another meeting, you can get yourself out of those positions. But given there are 3 committees plus there's three staff, will we be able to meet virtually?
Thank you for the question, through you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. And I think we'll have to be fairly flexible on the timing as well, because as indicated, there is already a report cycle, and staff often start reports that appear on the agendas for committee and board meetings 6 and 8 weeks in advance. So while they're working on those reports, and then if we are having a committee reviewing those agendas, we won't be able to quickly shift where we're going. Otherwise, the report cycle is going to be skewed. So it is going to be a challenge to be able to schedule these meetings, respect the work of staff, and respect having to build the agenda. So in the fall, we're going to be trying to figure that all out, and I will be begging the indulgence and patience of the trustees, and particularly those on the committee, with scheduling and timing. And I'll also be begging indulgence and patience from staff who've been working on reports and getting into that report cycle.
Thank you.
Is there a way to sort of bridge this gap in communication without it becoming a committee where people have to meet? Because what I understand is the idea is to ensure that there's a better understanding of what staff is working on, so trustees are aware as we're moving forward, and then there's, I think, better moving forward in collaboration rather than sort of that missing knowledge, right? Is there another way that we can achieve that without creating the committee?
Actually,
I may be off on this too, so.
yeah, I'm going to suggest that at this time,
Yep.
we need to create this committee.
Fair.
Okay. And I'm taking direction from higher up. Thank you.
No, and I understand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, Trustee Benjamin.
This is more like a observation, because when you talk, I go to 15.4, the board and committee meeting schedule, and we all discuss how difficult it is to schedule our meetings, and and when we want to meet some of our maybe superintendents, then we have to give them 3 or 4 alternate dates. So what I observed was there's nothing on Monday except discipline committee meetings, and then Friday, nothing. So why is everything being sort of organized between Tuesday and Thursday? I'm just curious.
Do we want to meet on Friday?
No, but when you spread it out, maybe, you won't be in so much of pressure, that's it.
We'll take that under advisement. Thank you. Trustee David.
As are with a lot of other committees, is it open to all trustees to attend and figure out what's going on and stuff like that? Or is this just sort of vice chairs and chairs only?
There is, at the moment, that was not the intent. But the intent is to ensure that, again, the information that coming to trustees, that at least the chair of those committees would have seen those reports. If there's anything that they may need to flag, before it gets to all the trustees and so forth. So, and not only that, to ensure that, again, whatever is coming on the agenda is aligned with our strategic plan, our strategic goal, or annual learning goals.
So that's a polite no?
Huh? Okay, Trustee McDonald.
Sorry, no, I would, hopefully it's not a polite no, because I think that a trustee has the right to be there. If you're not on the committee, you probably won't participate in the meeting, but I don't think there's any reason to exclude a trustee if they want to sit and observe the meeting.
No, if they want to sit and observe that, nobody would exclude anyone. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you. So I'll move down to 15.6, which is the recommendation for candidate for special education advisory committee SEAC vacant member seat. And I'm going to turn it over to Director Suru to introduce Associate Director Silva to make this recommendation.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Green, I will ask Associate Director Paul De Silva to present this recommendation.
Thank you, Director Sru, and through you, Chair Green. As you know, the Special Education Advisory Committee, SEAC, is an important committee that advises the board on special education programs and services available to PDSB students. It's a vital platform that allows community organizations to collaborate with the board, bringing forth an essential perspective on various issues related to the delivery of special education services. In addition, SEAC representative organizations act as a voice for parents, providing an additional route for communication and collaboration with the PDSB education community. This committee is made up of 12 members from qualified organizations or associations. I will now turn it over to Superintendent Newby to present the report, recommend a candidate for special education advisory vacant member seat.
Superintendent Newby, go ahead.
Thank you, Associate Director De Silva, and through you, Chair. This evening, we're seeking the board's approval for abilities to work to be appointed to fill the member organization vacancy on the Special Education Advisory Committee. SEAC is a statutory committee of the board providing advice about special education programs and services available to PDSB students. In the spring of 2022, one of the 12 committee member seats became vacant and a call out for a new member organization was issued in February of 2023. That vacant position was presented to trustees at the April board meeting and filled. Simultaneously, another position became vacant, and in consultation with Peel Governance Office, it was determined that the next new member organization could come from the same call-out. Applicants were required to meet the following criteria: a nonprofit organization, operating throughout Ontario, furthering the interests and well-being of one or more groups of exceptional children or adults, and not representing professional educators. Having met the criteria, we are recommending Abilities to Work to join Peel SEAC. Abilities to Work supports youth ages 15 and above and adults with disabilities to navigate the job market and find work or engage in entrepreneurship and experience success in opening and running their own business. As a system, we are conscious of the need to support students in their transition to the world of work. We are committed to engaging with community organizations such as Abilities to Work, who can partner with us and provide recommendations and resources to ensure the greatest possible access to meaningful employment for persons with disabilities. Inclusions of Abilities to Work on Peel SEAC is a proactive step towards fostering a culture of respect and dignity for students with disabilities within the education system. Abilities to Work is based in Mississauga and has close connections with local employers, as well as government, community organizations, healthcare providers, and other employment services. They, like the board, are committed to implementing accommodations to minimize barriers related to disabilities. In terms of next steps, should the recommended candidate be confirmed this evening, their representative will be contacted and invited to attend SEAC meetings next school year as a qualified member. There will be communication with the SEAC chair and existing committee members to inform them of the new organization. The new organization will also be listed in the updated SEAC brochure to be distributed to the system and added to all SEAC-related correspondence. This concludes the presentation of the report, and I'll now take any questions.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask Trustee Jill from the trustee, I'll put them on the phone. And question, concern, see none? Okay, all those in favor? Carried, thank you very much. Thank you, Superintendent Newby. Okay. I'm gonna keep going. 16, we got no communication. 17, we got no trustee motion for consideration. And 18, we have no notice of motion. We are going to move down to presentation in the video. End it here.
Hi, my name is and I'm 7 years old. I speak 2 languages, Malayalam and English. So in this school, I feel really open and I'm able to talk to others who speak my language. That's why I'm really happy to be in this multi-language school.
Hi, my name is Yoshini and I speak Tamil, French, and English. I love that there are a lot of people in this school and I can express myself with every language I speak. Bye!
Hello, my name is Simran. I speak English and Punjabi. I love how I can share my language with other people and how I can share my identity. Bye.
My name is Nico and I speak Yoruba English. Absolutely, we are a language-friendly school, and I love Suzuki, and it's a good thing that I can speak Yoruba and English because it helps me in my school.
Здравствуйте, мое имя София, и моя школа, я люблю ее, Silver Green.
On May 17th, Lorne Park Public School welcomed students, teachers, staff, alumni, and community members as it celebrated its 100th anniversary. Throughout the year, the school has also been sharing beautiful memories from over the years on social media in celebration of how the school has played a vital role in the community and how it has continued to evolve and inspire. Happy 100th, Lorne Park Public School.
It was there? Wow. Remember they drew a picture of him? Guess not.
We applied for a LEAP grant because this year's Centennial's SEEP goal was around models of learning and authentic assessments. We wanted to provide students with various opportunities for inquiry and hands-on learning, and we wanted to allow them to embrace all types of technology, so we needed the funding to be able to supplement some of the technology we already had at school. One of the ways was through podcasting. Students are loving, engaging, and that tool to communicate their thinking, as well as learn all about the process of podcasting. The LEAP funding has allowed us to have the tools and technologies students need in order to see themselves as makers and doers and explorers and critical thinkers and innovators.
This current timeline, we have to ask how do you feel as a girl, specifically asking girls how is this, but in the future I want it to be equal. If you're a girl and you're doing this, it's normal. It has to be normal. It's gonna change soon, like that.
So with our sequel, we really wanted to focus on affirming identities and having children see themselves within our school culture in terms of academics, in terms of books, in terms of what they see on the walls and who's coming into our school and who they're learning from. We had our BSA running for the past couple of years, and this was the year that we really wanted to get things going. The students were really excited to have their own space and to speak up and use their voice within our community. So just relating back to our SEEP goals of empowering students and exploring identity.
My name is Kevin Sebastian. I'm the principal here at Earnscliffe. We had the Leading Education Innovation Projects grant, and we've been able to branch out in two ways. The first was the Visions of Science STEM Academy, which is a partnership with Visions of Science, who's been in our community offering STEM classes for the past 10 years.
I'm a part of the Visions of Science program, and we get to learn so much about science, technology, engineering, and math all at one time. And it's a hands-on experience.
The second partnership that we had was the Shine Marketplace, which is going to branch into the Shine Ambassador program. This is an entrepreneur program which looks to support students to develop this skill by working with community partners and entrepreneurs in our community to help them grow their products and their understanding while also capturing learning along the way.
Our LEAP project really came out of a lot of the work with Ministry Directive 19, critically examining our library collection and looking for that bias and how can we make sure our collection represents the intersectional identities of our community. We actually started with a community book called The Love Book, and from there students were inspired to create their own book about greetings in all the different ways that people greet in their community.
Last month, we shared the great news about the two teams from Central Peel Secondary School that placed first in their respective categories among 4,500 international entries in the annual Gerard K. O'Neill Space Settlement Contest. On May 9th, the two winning teams were invited by MPP Hardeep Rule to visit Queen's Park and to be recognized by the Legislative Assembly of Ontario as the only Canadian teams to receive a distinction from the competition this year. Awesome. Students met with a number of MPPs, as well as Minister of Education Stephen Lecce and the Minister of Finance Peter Bethlenfalvy, who all congratulated them as they were given a tour of Queen's Park.
Unless there are any objections, I'd like to continue with the introduction of guests. The member for Brampton West.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to welcome the students here today from Central Peel Secondary School in Brampton. These remarkable students took place in an international space competition at NASA, and out of 26,000 participants, these two teams from Central Peel placed first place in their respective categories, and they were the only Canadian teams to be recognized this year. I'd like to introduce the students up on my right. Kesha Patel, Mashfal Chaudhry, Rahim Ali, Mehtab Chima, Anat Dugal, Tanvir Guhunia, Kushal Patel, Pragalava Sharma, Mahim Patel, Deep Patel, Rehan Jaffer, Neil Pathik, and they're joined by their teachers, Karanveer Sahota, Harinder Bir Sahota, and Simona Metai. Congratulations and well done, guys. Thank you.
So thank you to the members of Brampton.
No street tennis? We did street tennis 2 weeks ago.
Okay, all right, thank you for that video, inspirational and great things are happening this afternoon just before we adopt the closed session report. On behalf of the entire Board of Trustees, to our director, our associate directors, to all our staff, our governance officer, and students, we just want to take the time to say thank you. Thank you for your time, your commitment, your dedication, right down to our custodian staff. This year has been a challenging year for all of us. But when you look back, you stood the test of time. You continue, even in spite of challenging time, you continue to steer and you continue to work to ensure that we are providing the support that our student needs so that they can succeed in life. I want to say on behalf of this board, we thank you. And, when we look back, coming out of COVID and coming back to the table, there were so many challenges that we had to face, and you were dealing with even prior to trustee coming back to the table. But what I really appreciated is the coming together. We have a saying that's to say that we're better together than apart. And I see when we work together collaboratively, how we can move things forward. And together, we are making a difference for our students. Together, we will be the best board in Ontario. Because why? We got a director that is focused, a team that is focused, and a board of the trustees that are committed to drive and to support work as we move forward. So I want to thank you and want to wish you well. May you have yourself a restful summer over this time. And to our students, trustees who are going off to great things in life, we know they're going to do great things. We want to wish you well again and great success in your career, whatever path you decide to take in life. We know you're going to do well because you've proven yourself over and over again at the sport table that you're ready for what the world has to offer to you. And go out there and not only make Peel proud, but also make yourself and your parents proud. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great summer, everyone. Can I have somebody move an adoption of the in-committee report? Jill, Brad, Trustee McDonald, all those in favor? And Trustee Clark, moving adjourned, and Trustee Cameron, all those in favor? Gary, thank you. Have a great summer. Well,